Hi and welcome back to the channel. If it's your first time here, my name's Lee. On this channel I talk about world affairs and geopolitics, give you some facts and my views and opinions. Now today I want to talk about this new game-changing weapon. Well, according to some people think it's a game-changing weapon that the US have now agreed to send to Ukraine. And this is a multiple launch rocket system, or a multiple rocket launch system, MLRS. Anyway, what it is, it's a truck-based weapon that carries a pod of 6 rockets, which can be fired off, and they have a range of around 50 miles, about 80 kilometers. Now there are some munitions that can be loaded into it that give a much farther range, up to about 300 kilometers I believe, but America have said that they're not going to be supplying those rockets to Ukraine in fear of Ukraine using them to strike targets within inside Russia and sparking off a wider conflict. Now we're going to have a look at this Guardian article which talks about these Himars, these systems that America is sending, and they're not the newest of weapons. They've been around since 2005. 2005 was the first deployment to the American military, so they've been around about 17 years, so they're not the latest technology, but they have been used in a operation in Iraq I believe, and obviously they've had lots of testing in hot war situations. So anyway, the article, title of the article is HIMARS, what are the advanced rockets US is sending to Ukraine? And it says, Joe Biden has announced the US will send advanced missile systems to Ukraine. The new weapon is the HIMARS Multiple Launch Rocket System, or MLRS, a mobile unit that can simultaneously launch multiple precision guided missiles. Now, it says both Ukraine and Russia already operate MLRS, but HIMARS has superior range and precision. Now, this is not strictly true. Russia have some systems that have a longer range than this, and they also have weapons that are just as advanced as this. These are no more advanced than anything Russia currently has. It then goes on to say the HIMARS that Washington is providing to Ukraine will have a range of about 50 miles, 80 kilometers, a US official told reporters. And yeah, this is, like I was saying earlier, they do have rockets that can reach longer distances, but these are not the ones that are being supplied to Ukraine. So these ones that Ukraine again will have a maximum distance of 80 kilometers. And the HIMAR units carry one preloaded pod of 6 227mm guided missiles. With a small crew, the HIMARS can remove a spent pod and load a fresh one in minutes without other vehicles helping. Now, again, this is something that is simply not true. Those extra pods have to be carried by other vehicles. I have no idea how many pods those support vehicles carry, but I would imagine they carry perhaps 2 to 4 at a time. So for every pod, you need multiple support vehicles. Now it mentions that the crew to operate one of these HIMARS is 3 people, but you also need other personnel to drive the trucks carrying the extra rockets. You also need a maintenance crew because these things need to be maintained, otherwise they're useless. They have sophisticated mechanics and electronics on board, computers, etc. So somebody, you also need a maintenance crew for these. So it's not a case of just, 3 men jumping into a truck and firing these off and having an effect against the Russian military with them. And the article says the crews will require some training. Now, that is a bit of an understatement. It says on the website of the manufacturer that first of all you have to have people who have a high understanding of spatial awareness and mathematics, and it then suggests that it takes a minimum of 4 weeks to train these people. And what you've got to remember, somebody freshly trained after 4 weeks won't be that much of a competent operator. And if you look at how Americans are trained on this, they have their training, they then are with personnel who are very used to using them. They've used them for years. They've had many training operations using them. Now, what you've got to bear in mind, these Ukrainian personnel will get their 4 weeks training and they'll be straight on the front lines with them, and they won't have any experienced personnel with them to correct any mistakes they may be making. So this is something that you also need to bear in mind when people are saying that they feel they could be a game changer in this conflict. The report then goes on. The US military already has HIMAR units in Europe, and NATO allies Poland and Romania have acquired the systems. So it seems as though America will ship them from countries that are already in the NATO alliance, so they will reach Ukraine pretty quickly if Russia don't take them out first. These are not small things that can be easily hidden. These have to be transported on trains or trucks, and as I said earlier, it's not just one truck, because each HIMARS launcher has to have a few other trucks that carry the additional rockets and the maintenance crew, etc., etc. And HIMARS will give Ukraine's forces the ability to strike further behind Russian lines and at distances better protected from Russia's own long-range weaponry. And again, this is not strictly true. Russia do have systems that have a longer range than this. And one of the things to note here, these systems, like many of the American systems, are developed assuming that the military use them will have either air superiority or full command of the skies. Now, Ukraine doesn't have air superiority. In fact, Russia has air superiority over the theatre of battle in Ukraine. And these things are quite large, so and they take some time to change the cartridges. So they're going to be out pretty much in the open, and I think Russian drones and Russian aircraft will easily be able to spot these and take them out very quickly, because they're not designed to be in situations where the side that are using them don't have air superiority. So I personally think that Russia will take these out very, very quickly. Russia also have, and it mentions here in this report, the GPS guided missiles the HIMARS shoots have a range of about double that of the M777 howitzers that the US military recently supplied to Ukraine forces. At roughly 80 kilometers, it generally puts HIMARS out of the range of Russia's own artillery when placing the Russian batteries at risk. And again, yes, it does put these out of the range of Russian regular artillery, but Russia has many rockets and rocket systems and missile systems that can travel far further than 80 kilometers. So it would be no problem for, as soon as Russia locate them with a drone or an aircraft, it will be no problem for Russia to launch off a battery of missiles to actually take these HIMARS out. As again, without air superiority, these weapons, these HIMARS, are really not that useful. And it goes on to say, some analysts have said HIMARS can be a game changer in the war at a time when Ukraine forces appear to be struggling under Russian artillery fire. Well, I don't think Ukraine is struggling. They're actually being kind of wiped out. They're coming under huge pressure from the Russian army. And, you know, America have already said they've spent 8 years training the Ukrainian army. So this just goes to show you how sophisticated and well trained the Russian army is, that they're defeating them without too much of a problem. The article already also talks about that these missiles from these HIMARS are GPS guided, and that's all well and good, but actually Russia are very good at jamming GPS signals, so it will render these far less accurate because Russia can jam the GPS signals, and this is something they've been doing for quite some time. And I suspect this is another reason why China actually have built an alternative system to GPS called Beidou, and that is probably because if ever America launches a war with China, China military equipment will not rely on the GPS system, which the US has more control over than pretty much anyone else in the world. And then the article goes on to say the US president wrote in the New York Times that the advanced rockets will enable the Ukrainians to more precisely strike key targets on the battlefield in Ukraine. And again, as I've just said, that with very minimal training and Russia having air superiority and Russia being able to jam GPS signals, I really think that President Biden here is talking a lot of hot air. And it's interesting that up until now, all the other weapon systems they sent have also been suggested by analysts that they will be a game changer, and so far nothing has been. And I personally doubt, from looking at the evidence in front of us, that these won't make that much of a difference either. And as I mentioned at the start, these systems are made by Lockheed Martin and BAE Systems, and this is again, in my mind, just another way for the military industrial complex to make even more money, because obviously all these systems that are sent to Ukraine, a majority of them will more than likely be destroyed, and then the American military will want those replacing. So what will happen is orders will get placed with Lockheed Martin. Lockheed Martin executives will be very happy, and they will continue to grease the pockets of the Pentagon and bankroll the senators when it comes up for election. And this is, one of the things that the US does. They have this military industrial complex where really the politicians are not making the decisions. It's these large military companies making the decisions because they make so much money out of it. And where will the money come from to provide these new orders? Well, of course, we know that currently, because America have the benefit of having the world's reserve currency, they will just print more money to pay for all this additional spending. And I do intend to make another video about that sometime in the future. But anyway, I'd love to know what your comments are about this. Do you think they will be the game changer, or do you think, like me, that they won't make any difference at all? So leave your comments down below. But as always, for now, take care.